Over 1,000 right-wing protesters gathered in Jerusalem over the weekend in front of the National Police headquarters. They were demonstrating against the death of a member of the Hilltop Youth, an extremist religious nationalist movement. Ahuvia Sandak was killed during a police car chase earlier this week. He was just 16 years old, and police say that was an accident, possibly caused by stone throwers. During the protests that followed, religious right-wing demonstrators shouted racist slogans against Arabs, and one man even putting his baby's stroller in front of a police vehicle. 4 officers were injured and 5 protesters arrested. Let's talk to the editor of Arutz Sheva English, Yoni Kempinski. Hi, Yoni. Thank you for joining us.
Hi, how are you doing?
So first of all, what exactly happened to Ahuvia Sandak? He was killed when his car flipped over, and the police say they are investigating what exactly the cause of death was. What do the protesters believe really happened?
So let's first talk really about the incident itself. What was happening there, according to suspicion, of course, is the fact that these so-called hilltop youth were involved in some sort of activity against the local Arabs, throwing stones at Arab cars that were driving by, and the police acted against them. How did they act against them? There was a car chase. The youth went into their car and started running away from the area, from the scene, and the police were after them. Now, what happened after was something that, by the way, is part of procedures of police around the world, is ramming the car of the suspects who their activity, as we said, throwing stones against Arab vehicles, they were endangering life. So the procedure was to ram into the car. What happened after then is something that is really being investigated. Now, the car flipped over, and somehow Ahuvia, this young boy under the age of 17, he came out of the car. He fell out of the car. He went out of the car earlier in some sort of a scenario that he was killed. His friends were wounded. Some even actually fled from the scene at the first point. And basically that was what happened. The issue is that what happened after that, according to many of the people that are there, that live in the area, of course, the families and the friends of these youth, is that the police closed the area, did not allow anyone to come close. And we know that the Knesset member Bezalel Smotrich tried to come to there and to see what happened and try to understand, not investigate professionally, but try to understand what happened. And he himself was even physically moved away, blocked away. So that's the first claim, that the police didn't let anyone and isn't really investigating and is only basically investigating themselves. And the first demand coming from the protesters is some sort of commission of inquiry that is outside of the police to try to understand what exactly happened there.
Well, Yoni, we aren't hearing too much about these demonstrations or this story in general in the mainstream media, especially in English, but we are hearing about really disturbing things happening during those protests, like a man putting his baby in front of a police vehicle. What are the police doing to curb the protests? And don't you think that opening an investigation into the death would quell the anger?
That's exactly the thing. What's very interesting that what we saw today is a petition of rabbis coming from all different walks of life. Many rabbis who have come out against these hilltop youths and their different activities throughout the years, and they're against their activity, but they're saying one thing. Now is the point to investigate. Now is the point to find out the details, to put out the information so people understand what happened, and to calm the anger, because what we saw at the protest last night is making it even worse. We saw violence from both sides. We have a very disturbing documentation of the police beating one of the protesters. You have a story, of course, with the father and his kid. They, of course, are saying that they just came with the kid to a protest. By the way, the protest was totally authorized by the authorities. So again, this is a very complex issue. And the main thing that the rabbis and leaders are saying at this point, investigate, go down to the details. This shouldn't happen. I mean, even if these kids were doing something that was endangering lives, and these are policemen and these are kids, and the result of a dead kid after that is just something that shouldn't happen.
This whole story seems to really be highlighting tensions between this community and with the Israel police. What is behind that dynamic?
Exactly. So one of the things that we were hearing throughout the protest is these are murderers, the police are murderers, and these are tensions that we're seeing really throughout the year. The tension between these youths, by the way, sometimes these are youths from families who the families themselves are more, normative, as we call them, part of the system. These kids are, looking to take their ideals to a higher level, and really, and many times, the results are problematic, and they see the authority, the police, the state sometimes, as the problem. So there's one thing when this is, routine, and they do something here, do something there, and a chase here or there. But when it ends with the result of a dead youth, a dead young boy, that really brings the whole tension to a different level.
Yoni Kempinski, thank you so much for breaking this down for us.
Bye.